Yes, welcome to the Bass Kayak and Beers podcast on the Paddle and Fin Network. It's your boy Armando. I don't know why the settings on StreamYard today are different. I don't know why. But anyways, trying to get this all sorted out here as far as the video goes. But anyways, how is everybody doing? I hope you all doing okay and you're having a great week. Let's see. Today, for me, for the day of recording, it is Thursday. What is it? September 29th? And what do I got going on? Got my beer. If you already heard last week's podcast, I just gave up on my diet for the year. I'll start it up back again after the holidays, but I'm cracking open a beer again. I need one today because I went pre-fishing for the Lone Star Throwdown, which is going to be October 8th. I went to Steelhouse Lake, never been there, and it sucked big time. Yeah, the water clarity, everybody was telling me how clear the water is. It was like a foot of visibility at most, and the water level was like down like 5 or 6 feet. It was really, really low. I couldn't even get a bite. I went with Matt Wallace, a buddy of mine from Waco, who I met fishing the Slay Nation Texas series a couple of years ago. Good old Matt Wallace. If you don't know him, go follow him on Instagram, Matt Wallace Fishing. I'm assuming something. Matt Wallace. Go check out for Matt Wallace. Great angler from Central Texas. Good buddy of mine. So, yeah, he had a horrible day too. So, definitely not going to that spot on the tournament. We have the option of going to either Steelhouse or Lake Belton. I did fish Lake Belton, I think it was last year, for the Texas Kayak Championship, which also is run by Chris Morales, tournament director for Southeast Texas Kayak Bass League. And I did pretty well as far as bites, but I missed a couple of bites. A couple of fish came off, but I think I'll probably just fish out of Belton to my familiar spot. But yeah, anyways, that was my week. I certainly need a beer after today's humbling experience. It's a good feeling. It's not a good feeling to get skunked. It's a good feeling to try to think back the last time you got skunked and then you don't remember, because that means you're not fishing that much, or in my case, I have fishing, but I've been treating pretty well. Probably sometime the beginning of summer was the last time I got skunked this year. But yeah, fishing has been pretty good late summer up until today. But anyways, we got a great guest for you today. We got Jeff. God, I always screw up the last name. Isham? Jeff, I know you're in the back room, so you'll correct me if I got it wrong. But Jeff just won the Angler of the Year for, to me, the most talented local tournament here in Texas, original tournament or state tournament, whatever you want to call it. The Southeast Texas Kayak Bass League is full of great anglers who have made themselves a name both locally and in national trails like the Hobie BOS, KBF, and Bass Nation Kayak Series. You got Caleb Helbig, you got Andrew Jacobson, Rolando Nandine. The list goes on, and I'm sure I'm forgetting other names, so I don't want to disrespect anybody. But yes, Jeff Isham is definitely one of the best anglers we have here in Texas. I met him last year. No, actually 3 years ago. He was on my show 3 years ago, shortly after. I think he came up 8th place at the Hobie BOS in Lake Fork. And I think Cody Milton won that tournament with 100 and something inches. It was spawning season, and Cody Milton, as most of you know, is great when it comes to spawning season. But yeah, that was the last time we got Jeff on the show. Really enjoyed my conversation with Jeff. Really enjoyed just hanging out with Jeff on tournaments, and his good buddy Christopher Delgado. I apologize. By the way, Christopher Delgado won the Jeffrey Isham Sportsman Award, which I guess it's kind of like, it's an award you win, I guess, voted by your peers if you have, for your sportsman-like attitude on and off the water, and be an ambassador to the sport, pretty much, and Christopher Delgado, congratulations. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. Love Christopher Delgado. Jeff, I'm sure, will totally agree with me on that one. So congratulations. And congratulations to Jeff, who again won the Angler of the Year. I wanted to touch on something before I brought Jeff in. There was a lot of talk on the Facebook page for Southeast Texas Kayak Bass League, and I wanted to give my 10 cents on this. I got a cat running in front of my microphone. Sorry, I got a stray cat inside the house. I don't know why. Anyways, focusing on what I was going to say. The leaderboard was turned off halfway through day one, and which I thought, you always at the end of the day, they, about 2 hours before line out, they turned it off. It's a 2-day tournament, so I thought they were going to put it back up the next day. And a few of us were chatting on the Southeast Texas Kayak Bass League Facebook page about, wanting to see the live leaderboard. First of all, I have the huge amount of respect for the tournament director, Chris Morales. Great tournament angler. It's his decision at the end of the day to kind of have shut off the leaderboard halfway through day one and completely in day two. I get the reasons. Andrew Jacobson made some great points on that thread that was going on. I completely get why Christopher Morales is doing what he's doing. He also, he protects the integrity of the sport and wants it to be fair. Doesn't want other anglers to know where other people are fishing. So he's focused on the anglers that are taking part in the tournament. He's looking at it through that perspective, which I totally agree with him from a tournament director standpoint. My thought on it as a spectator of the sport and somebody who's trying to grow the kayak fishing community and grow the sport, I like to keep tabs on what's going on. I understand the last 2 hours line off, keep some excitement for, the presentation award. That I agree with, but I would have liked it to see at least the first 6 hours of an 8-hour tournament that you can follow along. I got a lot of friends from that tournament, and I want to cheer them on. And not particularly rooting for anyone in particular, but just being a fan of the sport and some of the guys that are out there. It was kind of sad not be able to do that. On the other side of it, as a podcaster, I try to do my best to promote Southeast Texas Kayak Bass League as well as any other local and national tournament. I feel that's my responsibility as a podcaster. So if I'm constantly watching the leaderboard, I get more insight of what's going on, who's leading, who's catching the big bass, what time they're catching it. I take notes on that, and that way when I bring like somebody like Jeff onto the show, I have more insight that I can talk to. So in that aspect, I was kind of disappointed that the leaderboard was turned off for most of day one and completely by day two. But again, that's just my personal opinion on it. I know that this is not a spectator sport, but at the same time, I think in order to get this sport to the next level as far as tournament winnings and all that, it has to become somewhat of a spectator sport. You got sports like cornhole. What's that other sport from Canada that's super boring, but for some reason gets a lot of views on ESPN or ESPN2 or whatever other streaming services there are? Forgot that name. It's curling. It's the one with it's ice and the little brush and some round stones. You'll know which one I'm talking about. If those sports that are not exciting at all can be live streamed on cable TV or a streaming channel, I don't see why kayak fishing can't reach that level eventually. I know it's a little different with the logistics of having a camera be live stream and following somebody or having it in the back of the kayak. I think eventually technology will merge with what we want, and I think eventually it'll be like a live stream sport. But we have to start thinking about it that way. The more people get to see the leaderboard, the more views you get on it, the more buzz it creates, and the sport gets to grow more. But that's just my 10 cents on it. Again, I total respect for Chris Morales, and I completely understand the reasoning behind it. And if I was a tournament director, I probably completely agree with him as well. So anyways, I've gone on for quite enough, and I have Jeff here in the green room just waiting. So we're going to go to a quick Waypoints commercial. Before that, big thank you to my sponsor. Go to douglasoutdoors.com. Check out the full lineup of LRX, X-Matrix, and award-winning fly fishing rods. So go check them out. We'll be right back. Mr. Jeff,
Yes.
Before I continue,
Isham. You had it right. Yeah, you got it. The second time you got it right.
Isham.
Right. Yes.
Because I used to call you Isham, and then I realized somebody corrected me. No, it's Isham. So I apologize, man.
I joked with Chris Morales at the beginning of the season, or at the beginning of the first season, I just want to win enough to where you know how to say my last name.
For Chris? No,
yeah.
Chris is a great tournament director. I have a lot of respect for him, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Congratulations, man. Angler of the Year in a loaded trail, Southeast Texas Kayak Bass League. How do you feel?
Feel good, man. It's I went in, it was actually a kind of like, I guess, a goal that I had set for the year. I actually won the first Angler of the Year when Southeast Texas first started.
Really?
And so, I mean, I guess, they're transitioning into Texas Kayak Bass League.
Yep.
So this was officially the last season of actually Southeast Texas. So I won the first one and really wanted to win the last one. So
you bookended it.
Yeah, it was a goal I had set, but man, it was not certain until the very end. I mean, up until the time Chris Delgado announced it, I honestly didn't know if I had it or not.
Yeah, that last tournament, the classic 2-day tournament at Lake Fork, I feel bad for you guys because I thought, I'm thinking this is going to be crazy numbers. Somebody's going to win like 104 in 103 second place, 102 third place.
Yeah.
There's going to be tons of bass, but man, Lake Fork can be tough on summers, I'm sure you know. And that's one of your favorite lakes, right?
Yeah, I enjoy it. I mean, I think everybody's fished Fork more than once knows. I mean, it can be your best friend, your worst enemy. It's very unpredictable, but when it's good, it's good. But when it's tough, it's really tough.
Yeah, I agree. So let me ask you this. When was the first year for the Southeast Texas Kayak Bass League?
Don't ask me numbers. I believe it was, trying to see if I can see over here on the wall. I want to say it was 19. I can't see it from here.
2019.
I believe that was correct.
All right, so it's been a few years. Are you excited about what they have going on next season?
Oh yeah. It's I really enjoy the lakes that we fished as Southeast Texas. I mean, as an angler, I like to challenge myself, so I think it's going to be really interesting because I'm going to have to get out and fish lakes that I'm not necessarily comfortable fishing, but that's how you get better. So I'm excited about it. I think it's a good move. Going to get out and fish some more Central Texas lakes, and it'll be a fun season.
Yeah, I think I saw part of or kind of like what their schedule is going to look like. I think they have like 9 events, 9 trails next year, right?
Yeah, and I'm not the person to ask about it necessarily, but there's some way that it's kind of divided up into regions still. Like you don't have to fish every one of the events to be a contender, like for Angler of the Year, but there's a certain number of events you have to fish outside of your area to do that. And I'll probably, unless something comes up, I'm gonna probably end up fishing every one of the events.
Nice, man. That's awesome. And again, congratulations. How do you feel about Christopher Delgado winning? Is Jerry? Is that your family? Is that your dad?
Yeah.
Or somebody?
So let's see. 3 years ago now, Chris and the Chris's, actually surprised me at the Classic one year, and they came up with an award that's actually named after my dad, who's Jerry Isham. And my dad died when I was 6 or 7. But their point was, it's an award to give somebody, and it focuses on how somebody can have a positive impact on somebody, whether it's for just a few years, that can last a lifetime. So it's kind of the way we have of giving back to people in the trail who've gone out of their way to help other anglers. And I mean, like you said in the intro, I mean, Chris Delgado, I mean, he's the embodiment of what that award means. I mean, they just goes way above and beyond what anybody would ever ask anybody to do, but he's happy to do it. And as probably help more people in that trail than anybody.
Yeah, no, Christopher Legalo, well deserved, and again, a huge shout out to Chris Morales for coming up. I've never seen another trail do that, and I encourage anybody, any tournament directors, to consider doing something like that. That means a lot.
Yeah.
In Southeast Texas, that's why they call it
Alphabet Crew.
The Alphabet Crew. You're gonna have to get a new nickname for the new trail.
Yeah.
But the Alphabet Crew. I mean, there's so many good things about it. First of all, Chris Morales, like I said, is great tournament director. The body of waters that it's always on the list. It's like, it's like bass heaven. I can never find something to complain about that trail, even though I don't currently fish it that much because of its, like, every trail is like 4 or 5 hours away from me. So means Airbnb and all the expenses. So being that far away from those trails doesn't make sense financially. But the lakes they pick, the time of the year they pick them, the camaraderie, it's that Christopher Delgado effect extends to pretty much everybody in that
Absolutely.
trail.
Yeah.
I remember on the first year at the first trail this year, I meant to say, at the Hobie BOS was in Toledo Bend, and you guys had your own little space. The Alphabet Crew was there showing on strong, and the camaraderie, and the loudest bunch, but the most enjoyable bunch out there, definitely. And you can tell there was that genuine, again, camaraderie between each one of you. So it's beautiful to see, and I'm sure it makes it even more enjoyable to fish a tournament like that.
Oh yeah, and we have. I mean, there's guys that'll straight up tell you. I mean, that if it wasn't for the camaraderie that we have, they wouldn't show up. I mean, all the guys obviously enjoy fishing, but a lot of them show up just because they just want to hang out and hang out with their buddies and have a good time and do a little fishing and there's room for everybody in that group. There's people that from all walks of life, and we all get along. Everybody is happy to hang out with each other, and it's a good time every time we get together.
Yeah, you can tell. Let me ask you this. So I mentioned in the intro, before we dive into your season, I mentioned in the intro about the leaderboard turned off. As a competitor, do you like that, or would you rather have the just kind of like shut it off at the last hour, or do you want to just shut off the whole day?
I think that all depends on how you're fishing.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, and I tell people a lot. I believe fishing is 80% mental.
Yeah.
You have to stay in that good headspace if you're going to do well in a tournament. So, I mean, if you're doing well in a tournament and you see your name way up there, I mean, I think it's helpful. If you're struggling, it puts a lot of pressure on you. I try not to, I don't look at the leaderboard a whole lot. A lot of times I'll look at it real quick if I upload a fish just to, kind of make sure everything went through and, it updated the submission or whatever. But I mean, I get it. I mean, especially because we had a really close race for Angler of the Year, had a close race, everybody from day one going into day two just of the Classic. And I mean, I get it because you don't, there's a lot of people that can figure out where you're fishing. And if they see you doing really well, you don't want them coming in, wrecking your spot, or I'm not wrecking it, but, just come in trying to get a few fish out of it. So, I mean, I get it. From an angler's perspective, I mean, honestly, it doesn't matter to me either way. Like I said, if you're doing really good, it's kind of nice to know you have a little bit of cushion, but by the same token, it also, if you don't know, you're going to probably, even if you think you're doing well, you're going to fish even harder because if you think you're doing well, you want to make sure you keep that lead. Yeah,
that's a good point, because I think, like you mentioned, it really depends on how you're doing and what your mindset is. Somebody may just say, I get fired up just looking at this leaderboard, and others might say, I'd rather not look at it, the leaderboard. Yeah. I think one thing that is good about it, it's kind of like takes the whole sandbagging strategy out of it, because nobody can see it anyway. So
right. Yeah, and it's also a little bit different on Fork because I mean, I haven't looked to see like percentage wise, but I mean, there was some really big fish caught. So, I mean, even if you're, if you're 10 inches behind, I mean, you have a 14-inch fish, you catch a 24, which there was one caught out there. I mean, that puts you right back in it. So, I mean, fork can go up and down by, one fish. I don't know how many fish there were over 20 inches caught percentage wise, because I think you touched on it earlier. There actually for 54 entries, there weren't a whole lot of fish caught per person.
No,
but I feel like
for
the
a
quality,
2 day,
yeah, and for the quality of fish, I mean, I think it was up there.
it was like 55 anglers and 208 fish caught on a 2 day tournament, which I thought is like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, I
that's
don't know
not
if
good at all.
it tells you does it tell you what the total inches caught was? I was just kind of
No, just
okay.
how many fish were caught, and I don't know if that counts the coal fish. Like, for example, you on the second day you had um,
Yeah, I think I had
6 fish,
6. Right, I called
and
once.
Stephen Fisher had 9. So I'm not sure if it's just that it only counts your top 5 for the day, or if it counts. It says fish caught, so I'm assuming it
Yeah,
counts all of them. So
yeah,
yeah, it was definitely a tough bite over there at the Lake Fork. I felt bad for
yeah,
you all out there. I was really thinking there was going to be like obscenely big numbers, considering what that lake can hold and the talent that's fishing the
yeah.
lake. But let's go over your season, man. We started off with, I think it's Fayetteville. I keep calling Fayetteville. It's
Yeah.
Fayette. That was the first tournament, right?
Yeah.
Fayette. I'm
Fayette.
sorry,
Yeah.
Fayette.
I mean, I don't know. That's how I pronounce it. Everybody's got their way, but
Yeah.
yeah, Fayette County, I think, is actually what it's called.
And how did the tournament shaped up for you from beginning to end? What was some of your best performances, and some of your not
Um,
best
at,
performances?
at Fayette or just overall?
Overall.
Okay. Best would have to be. Well, I mean, technically, I guess I finished higher in the classic, but the next one would probably, well, it would be Toledo Bend, which is, I think you said you fished that one, right?
Yeah, I fished that one. I caught one fish, but I don't know why I don't think I uploaded. Maybe I uploaded to the wrong one.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's the one we also, I mean, kind of had in conjunction with the Hobie event. So I believe I ended up finishing 3rd for the Southeast Texas, and I think it was 6th in the Hobie event. So that was my best. Other than I finished 5th in this classic that we had last weekend.
So you got how many trails count for the Angler of the Year points?
I believe we have 1 drop. So whatever your worst tournament was is a drop.
And how many trails do they have this year? Do you remember?
I don't.
Let me see if I can find out here while I got you there.
Yeah, I can.
Fayette, Toledo, that's 2. Choke 3. Nacogdoches. Did I get that right? 4.
Yeah.
Sabine 5. Conroe 6. So 6 trails from what it looks like. Yeah. And then the classic, which was so that's 7th in total. So your top before you qualify, so you 5, and then the first 5 count, or your top 5 count, and then the classic. Well, that's including the classic.
Right. Yeah, you get there's AOY points that go in for the classic as well.
Oh, okay. So it's 5 total, or 5 plus the classic.
Was there 6 total including the classic?
Yes.
Okay. So it was yeah. So it was
no 7 with including the classic.
Okay.
My bad.
All right. Yeah. So there's one drop, and I don't know that's. I don't know how that would work. I don't know if you can drop the classic or not. That's
interesting. Yeah.
That's a Chris or Chris question. So I'm not sure what the answer to that is.
I need to get Chris on the now that the season's over. I think he still has the Texas Kayak Bass League in October for Lockwood. Oh, well, that's a charity tournament from what it looks like, but I'm assuming he's running that tournament.
Yeah.
So after that,
which will be on Fayette as well.
Yeah. So
and that's entry of presents for kids. So
Oh, nice.
they run that through a charity that gets kids gifts who wouldn't get it another way. So it's
That's
a
awesome.
good deal if anybody wants to come out and help support that.
That's awesome. And again, shout out to Chris for he's always kind of like thinking outside the box when it comes to a tournament director, keeping it exciting and engaged for everyone.
Mhm.
So big shout out again, Southeast Texas Kayak Bass League, one of the best trails I think in my mind, local trails. Definitely one of the best local trails. No disrespect to Duke Tryon and everybody who also does an amazing job, and West Texas Kayak Trail as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. So, how do you feel like now that you've won it? Which one is more for you, I guess, memorable? The first one or this one?
Man, that's hard. Oh, before I forget, I gotta show this because if I don't, I'll get in trouble.
Yeah.
They'll probably come take it back. Because I think that's one of our requirements. If you win a belt or the necklace or something like that, you got to be obnoxious with it. So there we go.
Yeah. Andrew was obnoxious last year.
Yeah, I got some big shoes to fill because he did it right last year. So
oh yeah, he was.
I got to make a showing like he did.
He was all about the flex.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, he is.
So man, I don't know. I would actually. That's a good question. I would say probably the first one. And I say that because I actually won the AOY and the Classic both that year.
Oh, nice.
So that was pretty special. And that was now that I look back at it, it was very similar. So the first one was on Livingston, which I mean, it's not necessarily known as a great bass lake. I mean, it's great white bass, but I think I went down there and pre-fished 2 days prior, and I don't think I ever caught a bass. And then ended up launching at some little ramp that was near a house we were staying at, and got on them. And then same way with Fork this time. I went down pre-fished for 2 days, and I think I had one 14-inch bass in 2 days. So it was it was a tough bite, but it's weird thinking back now. I hadn't thought about that, how similar the two events were as far as like the pre-fish. But
what do you think of all the trails you've won? What do you think is the most memorable one?
I mean, I'm gonna have to say Southeast Texas. I mean, that's most of my close friends are actually in that trail. I made some great friendships in there. I'm not saying I don't, man, that's hard to say because I've made friends in a lot of them, but I think it's just I tend to be really close with some of the guys in Southeast Texas because that's probably the main trail that I focus on, and I usually do every event that they have. So I'm just I'm around those guys. There's a lot of guys in Hobie that I hang out with when I fish Hobie events, and they're great friends. I don't get the chance to see them as often as I do as some of the guys in Southeast Texas.
Speaking of the Hobie events, you've had pretty good season this year. Did you qualify for the TOC by the points?
No.
Really?
No, and I went to Dardanelle hoping to do that, and I had a horrible showing at Dardanelle. Arkansas did not like me at all.
It was tough.
Yeah, it was real tough.
Especially Sunday for me.
Yeah. So, yeah, I didn't. I mean, unless some miracle happens and there's, just some unbelievable amount of people who don't go and it rolls all down that far. But, I had a shot going in. I had a really poor showing there at Dardanelle.
You had how many Hobie events did you fish this year?
3.
3. Okay, so you got, but Broken Bow was the other one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kind of same thing as me. Broken Board, Toledo, and Dardanelle.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And
go ahead.
I was Broken Bow actually did fairly well. So that's kind of how, I ended up, I don't know that I necessarily would have gone to Dardanelle if I didn't have those 2 good tournaments. I enjoyed it and I like going and seeing new places. I had a lot going on. I mean, that was right in between. So I fished the Northeast Texas Classic on Caddo the week before Dardanelle, then went the next weekend to Dardanelle, and then the next weekend was the Southeast Texas at Fork. So there was a lot going on, and I probably wouldn't have made the trip to Arkansas had I not had a shot at qualifying.
What place did you end up in Broken Bow? because he had like sixth place on Toledo, right? Which is pretty
Yeah,
good.
yeah, man, I honestly don't know. I'd
I
have to
have
go
to look
back
it
and
up.
look.
I'll look it up. But
I should have made some notes, I guess, before.
well, I wasn't, I didn't give you a heads up that I was going to ask you about the Hobie BOS, but
Yeah,
now they brought it up. For a moment there, I thought you've qualified for
no,
the Hobie BOS.
yeah, I wish I would have. Because like I said, I fished Caddo, I guess 3 weeks ago, and did pretty good on Caddo. So I was hoping I could get qualified and go out there for the Hobie.
How did it go in Cato, by the way, for the Classic?
It was good. I think I got fourth in that one.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
Yeah.
How many anglers were there?
I think they had 25, something like that.
25. That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
And that was the Northeast Texas. That's the one Duke Tran runs.
I'm
I know
sorry.
there's
Yeah. No,
no,
I
that's
think
not.
it is Northeast Texas. It was a lot of the guys that from the original East Texas Trail. So it's Dwayne Taft, Jamie Broad, Stephen Fisher, a lot of those guys.
Christopher Delgado. Now that I'm trying to find your name, Christopher Delgado actually pretty good on Broken Bow, which is interesting because he almost didn't get to fish it. Remember?
Oh yeah, they
They
couldn't find his
dropped him or something.
registration. Yeah.
I'm trying to find your name. Oh, there you go. Number 38, which is not bad. So you needed something like a top 20 finish or something like that, I think, to qualify.
I think so. That sounds about right.
Yeah, to qualify, but
yeah, I definitely didn't do that.
161 was your total on Broken Bow. I keep saying Toledo Bend. Rolando Nandin just right there. A lot of the Southeast Texas crew was kind of bunched up. You got you and Rolando Nandin right above you, and then Brian Howe just a little bit further up, and Christopher Delgado just even a little bit further up. Yeah, Christopher Delgado had a great tournament. Good for him.
Yep.
So I know we were there, and he was like, I don't know if I'm going to fish it. They dropped me or something. But glad he got to fish it. It was well worth it for him.
Yeah, that was it. That was
just
fun.
outside of the money.
Yeah, and I mean, I enjoyed that. That's the first time I'd ever been to that lake, and I definitely want to go back. That was a good time.
Yeah, to me, a Broken Bow, and I'll ask, did you got to pre-fish it?
I went up there. I think I generally, if I go to something like that, especially if I've never been, I try to go up and get a Thursday, Friday, and I believe that's what I did on that. We got there late Wednesday, was able to get on the water Thursday and Friday for a little bit.
So let me ask you about how pre-fishing went, because that was an interesting one for me, because my best finish so far in a Hobie BOS was the last tournament. I finished 22nd. Pre-fishing was horrible for me, but it kind of worked out, especially on day one. Broken Bow was the opposite. Broken Bow pre-fishing both day Thursday and Friday, and I'll ask you how it went for you, because I know a lot of people told me the same thing. That was the best pre-fishing I've ever had. Like, I was catching everything on anything. Like, it doesn't matter what area I was throwing or what I was throwing. It was just biting on anything, which was kind of like hard to say, well, I'll go with a chatterbait, or I'll go with a topwater, or I'll go with a net rig, because they were biting on everything. Couldn't single anything out. Then tournament time comes and I'm riding high. I'm thinking, I'm going to catch 10 fish, no doubt about it. Judging by pre-fishing, I'm catching 15 fish on pre-fishing on day one, on the Thursday, 15 fish on Friday. I'm thinking I'll definitely catch 5 fish on Saturday, and did not catch. I ended up with 3. How did pre-fishing went for you on that tournament?
So I pre-fished the first day in the area that I actually ended up fishing both days of the tournament. Second day of pre-fish, I went to a different spot. Because like you said, the bite was just so good.
Yeah.
I wanted to check and see, okay, did I really find a good spot, or is it all good? And I caught probably more fish the second day, and it was further south on the lake, and actually caught a pretty decent smallmouth. But other than that smallmouth, I think that was actually the biggest one I caught for the day. numbers were up, but the size wasn't as good.
Yeah.
So I figured to be competitive, I needed to be in bigger fish, and so went back up further north on both days, and was able to figure them out. Was able to get on some bigger fish, and I mean a lot of times I try to, when I'm pre-fishing. I mean, I guess everybody does this. I don't know. I try to cover a lot of water, throw a lot of different stuff, and try to narrow it down a lot so that come tournament day, I can kind of key in and focus on covering water more thoroughly and stuff like that. So that's kind of how that one worked out.
Yeah, and I just hearing you talk right now, I just now realized that on Thursday we were hanging out after pre-fishing right there at the beach where we launched at. It was the Bacas, Wesley, Mark Pendergraph, your wife was there as
Girlfriend,
well.
Yeah,
your girlfriend. I'm sorry, your girlfriend was there as well. So I completely forgot about that. Yeah, that area that we pre-fished was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
But like same thing you said, it was a bunch of fish, measurable, but not really something that was gonna get you either big bass or probably in the money.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. And how was pre-fishing for Darnell for you?
Kind of like the tournament. It was rough.
It was rough.
Yeah. I caught a ton of fish. They were just, I was downsizing, thinking, okay, if I can just get the numbers, surely I'll get something over 12 inches. And I don't think I've ever caught that many, probably 8 to 12-inch fish in my life. It was, I was throwing a little tiny buzzbait at one point, and the bass I caught on it couldn't have been bigger than this buzzbait was. I mean, there were so many small fish in the area I was in, but I don't know, it was just frustrating.
I think Daniel Glenny who were rooming together with Rolando Landini, said the same thing. It was just like tiny fish.
Yeah.
But your thoughts on watching Jackson Rambanes? I keep screwing. I'm horrible with last names. 15-year-old who won the tournament.
Yeah. I think that's awesome. And what a great story. I mean, your dad has to drop you off at the ramp because you don't even have a driver's license yet. I mean, that's
first time fishing out of a kayak.
Yeah, I mean, you can't write a better story than that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, to me, it's one of those where like I was sitting in second place, just above Jackson. After day one, then I was hanging out at Fred's house, and I had a chance to meet Jackson in person.
Oh, nice.
And a beautiful house. That whole man cave is amazing. That man cave is a tackle store / boat retailer.
That's awesome.
That is amazing. But I was talking to Jackson, and I was sitting in second place. He was sitting in third, but I just managed 5 bites. That's all I could manage.
Yeah.
And I stopped fishing like 45 minutes prior to lines out because when I saw the leaderboard, I'm like, there's no point of shore lipping anything here. But then I'm talking to him, and he's telling me day one he caught 27 fish. Mm-hmm. I'm like, that's when I thought, oh, good Lord, this kid is probably going to win it.
Yeah.
Because when you do the math, if I'm struggling to catch 5 fish, and this kid is catching 30 fish a day, guess who's when you measure the top 10 fish, guess who's going to probably, if you look at averages, going to end up with a bigger 10 fish.
Yeah.
So when I heard that, I'm like, good Lord, this is kind of humbling. Listen to this kid saying he caught 30 fish.
So a buddy of mine, Jared Brockelman, you probably know him.
Yeah.
We actually roomed together when we were up there, and he was telling me that they kind of fished the same general area, and he said he was watching him fish for a while, and he said the kid is, what he's doing out there is, not what you would expect a 15-year-old kid. I mean, he's got it down. I mean, he didn't just luck into that win. He's got a lot of knowledge for somebody for somebody 3 times his age, but especially for his age.
Yeah, it is, and again, it's one of those things, and I mentioned it on a podcast I did 2 weeks ago, which was kind of like my review of my performance on Lake Darnell, and I'm super excited for the kid. I'm rooting for the kid to win the TOC and continue on. show everybody that it's just not luck, that he actually is that talented.
Yeah.
And then part of me as a competitor is like, I just got beaten by a kid
Right.
who never fished out of a kayak before.
Yeah.
So it's like a bittersweet, right?
Yeah, you can't help but think that. Yeah, it was cool though. I mean, our girlfriend was up there and she was watching it, and she's like, "Oh, that's so cool! I can't believe he's doing so well. That's awesome." And said, "If you don't win, I want him to win."
Yeah.
So,
It's one of those things where my goal was to finish in the top 3 to get to the TLC.
mhm.
And that's one of the things like, man, if you would have asked me what I would have wanted the result, just knowing that event, opened the eyes to this kid,
Yeah.
and just actually having him on my podcast and talking about the win, I was like, I'm happy for him. If I would have said, I would have rather qualified for the TOC and then just below him. Like, I don't mind watching that kid win, especially when
Yeah.
I get to listen to him firsthand talk about how much it means to him, and also the publicity that we're getting. Some of the MLF guys and Bass Pro Elites and other podcasts like Low Budget Live with Luke Duncan talking about Jackson's performance. Of course, he's the son of the Fred Rambanis. So that part I appreciate, that the exposure just by him winning. Now
Right.
a lot of like the both side of things are kind of hearing about this tournament and getting people more involved in at least listening and watching the tournament. So that's good. That's always good.
Awesome stuff.
Let me ask you this, though. The first time that I had you on the podcast, you came 8th at the Hobie BOS, the infamous now 2019 Hobie BOS at Lake Fork. You were telling me that one of the things that your go-to bait has always been the Texas rig. From that point, from there to now, has your fishing evolved in any way, or are you still like really just like Texas rig, do or die?
Pretty much Texas rig, do or die. I think I submitted 6 fish day 5, 3 on day 1, so that was 9 fish. I caught 8 of them on a Texas rig worm.
And just when you do Texas rig, it's just how much percentage would you say it's a worm, and how much is it a craw or a creature bait, or is it always a worm?
95 at least percent worm.
Really,
and 90% a Zoom old monster. I mean, that's anybody that's ever fished with me, and they kind of tease me sometimes. They're like, "Man, that's all Jeff ever throws," but that's not true. I mean, I always have that rigged up, and I'll usually throw a jackhammer, something like that. But yeah, I mean, that's what I grew up fishing. That's what I used to fish when I was a kid for bass, and I just love it. And I mean, if you look back on some of the tournaments that I've done well in, it's usually the tournaments that play to my, what I consider my strength, and that's, fishing like standing timber with a big worm. I mean, I can do that all day long. I love it.
Do you like to use I'm assuming a ribbon tail worm or just a straight worm?
Yeah, this is the old monster, if you're unfamiliar with it, just a 10.5-inch worm. And I would say the back 50% of it's a ribbon tail.
Oh yeah, I think I have a couple of those. Those are a good one.
Yeah,
that's the Zoom one you said, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. The ribbon tail worm that I got is the same pattern of the brush hog that they discontinued. The color, which is the South African Fiesta or something like that.
Yeah. Kind of a black and red and a real dark color. Yeah.
Yes. So they used to have that color in the brush hog, but they discontinued 2 years ago. So I was like, damn it. So I switched over to the ribbon tail worm that has that same color pattern, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. And it's one of my favorite ones.
Yeah.
Definitely. So what were you, do you care to show, throw a little bit of the juice of what you did on Fork, or do you want to keep that a secret?
No, I mean, that's pretty much what I did. So if anybody hadn't been to Fork, and I'm not sure when they dropped the water, but like in the past year, I guess. So it was, I believe, 8 foot low at one point. So I actually went out and pre-fished a month prior to the classic. We have a 30-day off limits period. So I went towards, I don't think it was the last day, but a couple of days before the cutoff. And that was the first time I'd been out there since the water dropped. So, I mean, I've fished it several times before, so I've got spots that, I can feel like I can usually go and catch fish. But most of the spots that I, have fished in the past didn't have water in it, which was interesting because, you can go in there and you can see, okay, yeah, it makes sense now. I see why I was catching them there. It was a big lay down that, it's different. I mean, you can see that stuff on side scan or whatever too, but seeing it in real life, it makes a lot more sense. There's a ditch right there, so I can see why I've caught fish there in the past. So actually, where I fished, I pre-fished several different spots, but where I ended up fishing for the classic was an area I'd never fished before. I'd never even seen it before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What was that more like? South? I mean, do you want to tell what area or no?
I guess I'm trying to think how it lays out. It's probably like mid-lake, I guess. So normally I fish more up north. Like I was joking with somebody. I'd never seen the dam at Lake Fork. I mean, I don't know how many times I've been there. I'd never seen never seen the dam because I've never fished the south end of the lake. I did pre-fish there. I don't think I spent a whole day there, but a half a day, and wasn't impressed. But it's really hard, especially if you've never been there. It's hard to break it down right now because everything looks the same. I mean, there's standing timber. It's just hard to describe how much standing timber there is everywhere you see. And so, like in pre-fish, I covered a lot of water and I found some areas that seemed like they were holding more fish. And looking back, that was probably where I messed up on day one. I was still trying to cover a lot of water because I kind of thought that's what I needed to do. And day two, I actually slowed down and keyed in on some areas. So when I fish, pre-fish, whatever it is, anytime I catch a fish, I'd drop a waypoint there.
Yeah.
And it's cool to look back because you don't really necessarily notice it when you're out there fishing. But when you look at it later, you can see, okay, man, I got a lot of waypoints set right here. So you can kind of narrow it down. And that's what I did on day two is I found an area that I had, when I was going through there during practice and during day one, I dropped several waypoints and ended up seeing, some of them kind of clustered up more instead of spread out all over, and kind of slowed down and keyed in on that area and did a lot better.
Yeah, it seems like talking to some of the anglers that fished that tournament, it was like slow and steady was like the ticket. Like nothing, no power, more like finesse fishing, not power fishing. Is that how it worked out for you?
Yeah, because like I said, and especially when I pre-fish them out, I like throwing a jackhammer, just because you can cover so much water, and it's even though it's been around for a while now, it's still, it's super effective, especially covering a lot of water fast. I did not catch a single fish on a jackhammer during pre-fish. I take that back. Actually, I caught a 12.25-inch gizzard shad on a jackhammer.
So foul hooked it or what?
Yeah, right through the back, right under the dorsal fin, and it went straight through his back. It was weird because reeling it in, it still got its full range of motion because his hook is in his back, and it's like darting back and forth. I'm like, what in the world is this thing? And I don't think I'd ever. I've seen them getting chased before, but they're there. But to actually see one, I put it on my catch board and everything because I wanted to see how big it was. But it's it's kind of amazing to think that there's bass that are actually out there feeding on those things.
Yeah, that's why. Gizzard shad, 12-inch gizzard shad. You imagine bass that's eating that?
Yeah. So when I went the month prior, I'd caught some fish on moving baits, like I was throwing a jackhammer. I caught some on plastics too, obviously, but I was actually throwing a 6-inch swim bait and catching them. But I couldn't get anything on a moving bait this past weekend.
Yeah, I think from the anglers that I talked to, kind of said the same thing, and I feel bad because I know some of them were like pre-fishing, same thing that you said, like pre-fished it a month prior. I think August 28th, I think was the off limit time started, something around that. But they pre-fished it in mid-August, and they were telling me, oh yeah, crankbait is the ticket. You know, I'm catching them 20, 22 inches on crankbait, and then it kind of sucks when now you're thinking, well, temperatures are cooling off. We got some rain, so now you know the crankbait bite, jackhammer bite is going to be even better.
Yeah.
And it turns out it was, for whatever reason, just the opposite, which
Yeah.
kind of doesn't make sense. I mean, I'm sure people smarter than me would make sense of why that is. It doesn't, and I don't think it makes sense for a lot of anglers, just judging by the results.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, not the bite. I thought it would have been that time of year, but you know, like I said, I mean, I'll drag a worm any time of year, and I feel like that's always an effective technique. But I mean, if you can cover more water, and I mean, it's fun just to throw that jackhammer out there and feel that when it loads up on it. But
yeah,
definitely wasn't much of that over the weekend.
One thing about, and not just jackhammers, but chatterbaits, it's very addictive as an angler for me, because I throw the jackhammer, right? Or again, the chatterbait or the bladed jigs, just so we won't try to promote one product, although I love the jackhammer. You know, you feel that vibration constantly. So you're reeling in, you feel that vibration. So it gives you confidence that, you know, when you stop feeling vibration, could be you got, you know, grass on your blade, or you actually have a fish that just inhale your bait and is swimming towards you. And one thing that I've learned from listening to Russ Snyder, another podcast, and Jody Quinn, is like when they're reeling in their bladed jig and all of a sudden they don't feel that vibration, just set the hook on it. A lot of times it's the fish just grabs it and it's just swimming towards you. Yeah. It's following that bait, so it just grabs it and kept swimming. The reason why I say it becomes addictive as an angler, it's because you get used to that, you know, to that vibration. It is kind of like soothing, just to like, knowing that there's, you know, feeling every tiny vibration on it and knowing what's going on, versus I throw a swim bait and I don't feel anything. Yeah. Which is not supposed to, because unless you get a bite, there's no reason why that swim bait is going to vibrate or anything like that. Yeah. So I to me, it just becomes addictive. Every time, like, oh, let me switch to a swim bait, because maybe they got used to the bladed jig, maybe they're, you know, sore lip with, you know, let me throw something different. And I was like, I throw a swim jig, I can't do it. I don't feel anything. Like feel like I'm just reeling in an empty line. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I remember the first time I ever threw a jackhammer and started reeling in and felt that vibration. Oh, it's like, you know, almost like getting a hand massage while you're fishing, because you just feel that vibration going all the way down through your, you know, into your hands and your arms. And yeah, it's fun. Like I said, it is addictive.
It is. And let me ask you this. Have you tried? I tried it. And again, I'm not sponsored by either Berkeley's or Z-Man, but I do like to share what, you know, has worked for me. So on my way to Lake Darnell, I stopped at a shop and I'm thinking, let me get something different. And I've heard this before from other anglers. They say, you know, a lot of times if people keep throwing the jackhammer, fish kind of get used to it. And then they start just laying off of it. Yeah. I don't know the biology behind it. Kind of makes sense when you think about it. So I bought the Berkeley Slobber Knocker. And on day one of that tournament, my 4 biggest bites came on that Berkeley Slobber Knocker, and they was just inhaling it. They were just like, they couldn't stop, you know, not biting on him. Have you tried the Slobber Knocker by Berkeley?
No.
I was hoping to see if you tried it and see your.
No, I haven't.
It's for those out there that's listening, what I recommend is, again, I'm not particularly brand. If I had to choose, if you put a gun in my head and tell me to pick one, I'll probably be the Z-Man, because that's what I'm used to. But I would recommend is get both, because you can tell the vibration is different. Therefore, I'm thinking the noise is going to be different,
right,
one to the other. So they may be that they're used to just hearing that jackhammer, because 5 anglers ahead of you, boat or kayak anglers, have been throwing it for the last week. Right. And now you throw one with just a little bit different vibration or a little bit different knock on it. It might just be what attracts them.
Yeah.
Or at least doesn't scare them off. So who knows?
Yeah. And I think there's something to that. So I haven't tried the slobber knocker, but I did when I was in Dardanelle. I was throwing a stealth blade jackhammer instead of the original.
I hate that one.
Yeah. I've caught a couple of fish on it, but I don't know. I'm not sure why I was throwing it. Kind of the same, philosophy you were talking about. I just think, maybe because I wasn't catching good fish, I'm thinking, maybe the fish are used to this one or have seen it already. So I thought there was something a little bit different. I don't know. I think we tend to overanalyze our techniques, which you have to stay on top of stuff and try new stuff and all that. But I think sometimes it's just like I said, with fishing being there's so much of it mental. I think sometimes, like you were saying, you go and you try that new one and you're expecting to catch fish on it, so you do. You fish it better because you're more confident in it, or it's something new and exciting. And so I actually ordered a couple baits that had just come out that weren't in stores or anything yet that I was hoping was going to be here before the Classic. And they showed. I left Wednesday. They showed up at my door Thursday, so I haven't even got to throw them yet. But
what did you order?
Z-Man Hellraiser.
Oh, I've been meaning to get my hands on that.
Yeah. So I'm anxious to try those. It's one of the weirdest looking baits I've ever seen.
I don't know, man. Seaman, I think does some great baits. Like some of them just knock it out of the ballpark. Others not so much. But I'm excited to try it. I haven't tried it yet, but I'm excited to try it. Let me know how it goes.
I will. Yeah.
When's your next tournament?
The Throwdown.
Throwdown. Throwdown.
Yeah. Man, and then after that, I'm not really sure. Maybe that the Toads for Tots, the benefit.
Oh yeah.
Chris Morales is putting on.
Definitely. And next season, I know the schedules haven't come out. Brand new tournament director for Bass Nation Kayak Series or Bassmaster Kayak Series. I can't remember what they call it now.
Yeah.
Are you excited of the prospect of things being shaken up at Bassmaster? Would you be willing, if they come close, to fish it?
Oh yeah, always. Like I said, Southeast Texas or now Texas Kayak Bass League. That's kind of my, not kind of. It is my main trail. So unless something weird happens, I won't miss one of those. But I like to, definitely like to get some Hobies and if bass, depending on their schedule. I'm sure I'll make a handful of those too.
Awesome. KBF, I know KBF, at least the Pro Series, are not even coming close to Texas, I don't think.
Yeah. This year. I don't know if this was, I think this may have been the first year that I didn't do any KBF.
Yeah, they had Caddo, and that was about it.
Yeah.
Which is technically Texas, I think.
Yeah. Depending on which area you fish, but yeah.
Nice. Well, Jeff, I've had you for almost an hour. I really appreciate taking you.
Oh man, I've enjoyed it, man.
Enjoyed your company and talking about your fishing experience. Good luck on the Lone Star Throwdown. I hope to see you in second place if I'm in first place. If not, you get first place.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. I always look forward to that, and that's probably one of the most fun tournaments of the year, just because you get to see guys that you don't get to see throughout the year because they fish different trails or whatever. And it's kind of nice to have all the Texas guys in one spot. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
It's funny because it's one of the biggest ones, but it's probably and I haven't fished it before. Let me clarify that. But my mindset right now, going into the first time fishing it, is one of those where it's probably one of the biggest ones in my calendar, but it's probably the least I care about winning, just because I'm there for the camaraderie, hang out, get to see all of you guys out there, get to have fun. Everybody. It's kind of like a celebration of kayak fishing in Texas. So if I win it, that's awesome. But as long as I don't get skunked, I'm not gonna say I don't care less. I'm sure once I'm on the water and lines in, I'm gonna be okay. Game on. Let's try to win this. But for the most part, my attitude going through is like I just want to have fun and hang out with the people that I know, and the other half that I don't know, get to know them.
Yeah, for for sure. Yeah, I think we're wired a lot the same. I'm excited about it, but I'm kind of like you. But man, once you get out there on the water and you see everybody, there, okay, now it's time to go to work. I gotta catch some fish and make a decent showing here.
Yeah, at least not get embarrassed, right?
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, again, I'll give you a few minutes if you want to thank anybody you want to thank, any sponsors or friends, family. It makes your life easier. Go ahead.
Yeah, man. Sponsors, Exotic High Performance Rods. Been using their stuff for, oh gosh, probably 3 years now. And man, I'm super happy. It's one of those things where I was fishing with decent rods before, but I mean, there's like, you step up a little bit and it makes a big difference. So them, and then also Exotic Camo, they sponsor, and they were actually a big sponsor of the Southeast Texas Trail this year, and they have a whole clothing line and stuff like that, and hunting apparel and casual stuff. It's really good stuff and really reasonable price, and it's actually their store's a mile from my house, so that's kind of dangerous sometimes. But and then Chris Morales, he has Breakline Fishing, and he's the guy that makes all the jerseys. Keeps me incognito with my bright Serape jersey that he worked up for me. And Z-Pro lithium batteries. I've been using their batteries for a while now. I run a 12-inch Humminbird, 360, and a trolling motor. I mean, I'll run that thing all day long, and I never had any issues with it. So I've been real happy with their product. Mariner Sales, Duke, and all the guys over there. They helped me out with a kayak, and I mean, man, the best customer service. I mean,
yes,
there are guys over there. I mean, you can call them and say, okay, I have this. I bought this fish finder. What do I need? And they'll say, okay, you need A, B, C, and D, or you can do A, B. They know that stuff in and out. It's amazing. And let's see. I'd like to thank my girlfriend. She's very supportive. It's nice to have somebody who gets my obsession with chasing these fish in a plastic boat, and is encouraging about it. She helps a lot. She went to Dardanelle with me, and put her to work. I made her, or not made her, but she backed the boat to the ramp, and I just had to dump the boat out, and she would go take the truck and everything. So that was real helpful. And just family and friends. I grew up in a fishing family. We already covered my dad. Most of my memories of my dad are fishing when I was a kid. After I lost my dad, my mom stepped in, and her and I fished. We fish to this day, or once in a while. We don't get to fish as much as we used to, but she was always taking me fishing, and my sister fishes, my kids fish, and both my daughters fished growing up, and so it's just part of who we are, I guess. But yeah, the friends that I've made in here, that's I kind of touched on that when I gave the award to Slim, the Jerry Isham Sportsman Award, and I told the story. I don't know. If you saw it, but a lot of people listening probably didn't see it or hear the story. But there was a guy that was actually had in the RV park where I was fishing, or near where I was fishing. One of the residents had died. They were having a memorial service for him, literally during the tournament on day 2. And I'm fishing close enough where I can hear what's going on. I hear him where the 23rd Psalm and everything for a ceremony. And I'm fishing, and I hear them they're playing taps. And I actually caught my biggest fish of the day during taps during that. And, I got to thinking about these people they're there at this service. They could care less about this fish, this long-haired guy's catching out of a kayak. The important thing to them is their friend. And so, in the end, it's winning all these awards is fun, and I want to win as many of them as I can. But in the end, it's the people you meet and the lives that you get to be a part of, and hopefully make better in some way.
No, definitely. I don't think there's anything else we could add to that. The perfect note to end the podcast. And I appreciate you, Jeff, for coming on to the show, man.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
And again, we wish you the best on what's the remainder of the season and next season moving on. Hopefully we'll find new reasons to get you on board and
Yeah.
bring you to the podcast and talk about another big win.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. Looking forward to seeing you.
Same thing, man. Same thing. And for those out there listening, thank you again, once again for joining us. If you made it this far, go check out the sponsor, DouglasOutdoors.com. Check out the full line of LRS X Matrix and award-winning fly fishing rods. If you're going to be on the water, I can't stress this enough. I know the name of the podcast is Bass, Kayak, and Beers. However, if you're going to be on the water, if you're going to have a couple of beers, just make sure you drink responsibly. And on top of all, wear your PFDs. Just make sure you make it back home to your loved ones. That's what I'd always say. So peace out. Have a great week, everyone.
All right. Thank you.